Welcome, everybody, to Podcasts and Players, our third episode. And today's guest is another D&D YouTuber, an animator, who tells stories not just about D&D, but a lot of personal videos. He has collaborated with Matty Carl in the past and will do so in the future. Please, everybody, give it up for Vitamin Ditter!
Hey, hi! Wow, thanks for the intro.
And there you are.
That's
That's how we start it. That's right.
Yeah. Cool.
So, thank you for being on the show. I appreciate you
no problem.
expressing
Yeah,
interest.
It's great to be
great.
Here.
I want to ask you first, before we get into all the rest of this stuff, how did you come up with the name Vitamin Ditter?
It was like it was a kind of joke between me and a friend, because this was back when I was in college. We were just talking with like a group of friends, and one of my friends is more of an extrovert than like anybody else in my group. And so he was like, us as artists, we need to get out more and get more like sun. You guys are kind of up in or secluded in your rooms a little too much. You need to get out and get more vitamin D. And I was like, hey, I got plenty. I'm Vitamin Ditter. And ever since then, I was like, oh my God, that's such a good name.
That is good. That's a nice origin. I like that story. That's cool. The minute you were like, we need to get out in the sun, I was like, oh, I know where this is going.
Yeah, that's why I was like, all right, cool. I like that. And then after that, it just kind of stuck with me.
Yeah, and I like the logo that you designed, too, for your channel.
Oh, thanks.
The VD. That was really good.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. It took me a while.
Yeah, I can see the work that went into it. It's a really sleek design. It's actually one of the things I really like about your channel is how sleek everything looks.
Well, thank you.
You're very welcome. Let me ask, what led you to posting D&D content on YouTube?
Well, for the D&D content itself, was just more of it was a cool story aspect of it, because I was posting stuff before I started posting D&D stuff, and that stuff was just for that purpose, where I was like, I want to, tell the story. I want to have conversations on this channel. Like, I want to post stuff that is not only interesting to me, but might be interesting to other people. So after a couple videos, I was like, hey, you know what? I actually started playing D&D kind of recently, and some of the stories that are we've made in our sessions have been really cool, or I've enjoyed. So I kind of want to tell them and see if I can get the ideas across, kind of as an exercise for my storytelling abilities, and trying to see like if I could animate in a bit of a different style, because some of my previous videos are very like simplistic, because it's just me talking and then kind of like a background thing to show everyone the idea I'm trying to get across. And for D&D, I was like, I want to kind of show a bit more background, or like my character designs need to be a little bit more complex to just kind of show like different races and such. So I was like, this is a good exercise for me, and it sounds like a lot of fun. So that's kind of just how they like came to be.
Yeah, and I'm really glad you decided to do that, because I really like those videos.
Cool.
I was thinking of making something similar, of like doing like a list of different characters, but you said you started playing recently. When did you actually start playing?
I say recently in the grand scheme of things, because like I got introduced to D&D by the same friend that helped me make the Vitamin Ditter name.
Nice.
He introduced me and a couple of other friends. He was like, hey guys, like I'm really up to playing this game, and I had always heard about D&D for a bit, and I've always kind of been interested, but I never had anybody that like wanted to play or wanted to sit down and teach me how to play. And so I kind of took it as an opportunity. I was like, hey, if this is the only time I'm going to have, like, sure. So I went to his house, and we played a little bit of D&D, and I was like, this is amazing. I want to keep going. I don't know any of the rules, but what we did was great. And so after that, I was just kind of like, I got to play more. And so, it was a whole thing where it's like that group didn't really play anymore, which is understandable. Everyone's got their own like time frames to do stuff, but I really wanted to do it. So then I started kind of introducing a different group of friends to it. And sorry if I'm rambling. It's just like
no, go for it, man. The more you talk and the less I talk, the better.
All right. yeah, I introduced a different group of friends to it by being the DM, and so I had the same experience with them because was worried that once I introduced them, they would be like, "Oh, that was okay, but I'd rather just continue playing Smash Brothers." And nothing wrong with Smash Brothers. I'm just like, I kind of wanted to get in on this. We've been playing Smash Brothers for a while now, and so after I actually introduced them, it was so cool to see the spark in their eyes to be like, no, I want to keep playing this. And so after that is when I actually started learning the actual rules as to like how you're supposed to play, because a bunch of stuff I just kind of made up on the fly. I was like, I don't know what any of what you're trying to do would mean for the dice, but just roll something and I'll say if it was good or not. And then after that,
you were really winging it.
Yeah, because I was like, it was kind of that whole thing where it's like, we're gonna attack, and I'm like, all right, cool, I think that's what those numbers mean. I'm not sure, but just add numbers.
So would you say that you're probably more of a roleplay heavy guy than like a mechanics guy?
Now I am like present time. I definitely started to enjoy that more, especially like after diving more into DMing, because I guess I'll like for the group that I was previously stated, another one of my friends kind of took it on himself to be the DM after that, and that's how we all learned the rules. And so I've been a player in his campaign for about 2-3 years now. We don't really meet that frequently. That's kind of why it's also been like going on for so long. And yeah, for the first 2 years, I want to say, I was really focused on the mechanics of it. I was like, we just learned the rules, so I want to see how far these rules will take me. And so I was like, how much damage can I do? How much can I like manipulate in this sort of area? And yeah, I was like doing that kind of thing because
nice.
as yeah, because I know that that's like a min-maxer sort of mentality, but
yeah, power gaming,
exactly. But coming off of video games, that's kind of the only thing I like knew as a goal. Because, when you play games, you're kind of just like, I want to be doing as much damage as I can. So
that's a very interesting point. I think a lot of people go into tabletop RPGs, people that haven't played them before but have played tons of video games, and then they look at it like a set of statistics and numbers, which it is, but like it's more than that. A lot of people don't understand like it's not Skyrim. It's not a collectathon where you collect all this stuff and you're like encumbered because you've got like 1,000 pounds worth of stuff that you want to sell in town, and you're trying to like it's an adventure, and it's about the story more than anything else. Like, yeah, like personally I like the mechanics because if I'm going to build a character, I want my character to like not die, you know. So having a character that can do some things well, they don't have to be perfect, but like some things they're pretty good at and reliable at is really nice. And it's a far cry from my actual life where I don't really feel that reliable in every way.
Right.
Having a character that is really nice to have.
And in a sense, you kind of like put more bank into that character because it's like, hey, I've actually succeeded a lot and I want to keep succeeding. So you kind of have that mentality. So yeah, that's how I was for a while. And then I actually took it on myself to DM a couple games. Granted, I think a couple of the times I was actually DMing, even knowing the rules, I wasn't doing a great job because I was in the mentality of the power gaming mode still, which doesn't translate well to DMing because like the only way you can really power game is like with your player characters, and no one wants to be told how to play. So it's kind of that whole thing where like as a DM I'm like, well, here are some monsters, and then like your players are kind of like newer, so they're like, well, what am I supposed to do? And you're like, oh, well, you could do this, you could do that. And granted, like a suggestion is great, but you don't like if somebody kind of just wants to fool around as a player, you should be able to just let them do that. Like it shouldn't be something that you're like, well, no, you're playing your character wrong, because that's not a thing in D&D.
It's hard to I don't know. There's some people that think that like any D&D is good D&D, but I can tell you from experience that is not true. It is not true. Not any D&D is good, because you can have a terrible DM or some terrible players that will just absolutely ruin the experience.
Right, unfortunately.
And a lot of people don't like. They think the game is good enough. It's not sometimes. Like the game is great it enables people who are already sort of like, they've got like, compatible personality types and stuff to become closer together. Like, the
Yeah.
game is really good at forging friendships between people, especially people that maybe you don't know, but you don't, know how good of friends you could be.
Mm-hmm.
However, if you're playing with people that are just, the way they go about it is antithetical to the way you go about it, it's just going to drive a wedge between you.
Right.
And a lot of people are so desperate to be in a D&D campaign or to have their character play, like, I mean, you've heard some of the RPG horror stories and stuff, right?
Yeah, I've seen some of those videos.
Yeah, there's a lot of them out there, and sometimes I'll like listen to them while I animate and stuff, and God, like, it makes me very thankful that I have the friend groups that I have.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure you're probably in the same position, very thankful that you've got the people that you're with.
Yeah, definitely. I think I actually, in one of my like latest videos, as of the time of recording this, I made like a couple like just songs that I wanted to make, and the last one I definitely was like, I need to thank my group because I have found a good group, and I think that's kind of why what I was leading up to was that, like, I DM'd for this group, and I was so relieved and so, like, I don't know, just surprised, but so honored that it was a good group, and like everybody there wants to be there. Everybody there is there for a good time, and not only that, but like they they respect what I want to do with the story, and I think that's super great because it's like, we're telling a story. I'm giving you the prompts, but you're like jumping on that and making it better than I ever thought it was going to be. And so that's kind of why I wrote that song in that last in the last little section of my video. I was like, I need to thank them, and that's kind of what I wanted to do with that.
Yeah, that was a good video too.
Well, thank you.
It was very sweet. On the subject of sweetness, though, I actually wanted to ask you. Your channel description is, come watch some of my stories and random thoughts. I'm going to try to make your day a little better with a smile or a new idea. That might be the most saccharine thing that I've ever read. So I wanted to ask, how important is positivity to you? Because it seems like you value that a lot.
Well, yeah, I definitely value it a lot. Because it's been something that I've like had to learn as I've like grown up. That things can either be horrible or they could be good and okay or even excellent, but like it's really up to like how you see it that determines how you go forward with it. Because we've all had our challenges, and granted, like, some people have had tougher challenges than others, but like there's something there that will always, like, if you look back on something, it makes you laugh, or there's something there that in the moment you're like, but I'm glad this happened, or I'm glad I was there with this person. Like, when I do that, it's a lot of the times it's like someone in my family. I'm like, I'm glad they were there with me because I don't know what I would have done if they weren't there. Or like, my friends, especially, like I really value friendships. Because before I didn't have a lot of like permanent friendships, because I was moving a lot. But after I stopped like having to move, I actually started making friends, and or not just making friends, but like keeping friendships. And I learned to like really value that. And so that's kind of why I'm trying to be like a place where you could come and just feel positivity. Because it's like, if someone is going through something tough, and they find one of my videos and they're like, that made me feel good for like a minute, or that made me feel good for a little bit because I was thinking about it, then I feel like that's like useful in some way. And I don't know if, like, granted, there's probably a lot of channels that do that, or I don't know if I'm not trying to state like I'm a beacon of positivity. I'm just trying to be like, if I can help somebody with this, that's good to know, or that's good to try at least.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good mission statement, if nothing else, and like, who doesn't want a little bit more positivity in the world? Like,
right? Yeah.
There's a lot of negativity. I know people thrive off it. They like to hear, hot takes, right? That's a really fun thing to hear when someone's like, "Hey, I have this really controversial opinion on this movie. Actually, it was bad. And everyone's like, what? You know, they love to hate. You know, people love to, like, get angry about stuff. But I don't know. I feel like genuine positivity, not just like, I think there is a brand of it that's a little bit phony where it's like I pretend to be positive because I just want to portray an image of myself, and it's actually coming from a place of vanity to like genuine, like, I just want people to feel good. And that's where I'm feeling from your channel. Like, you genuinely seem to like are trying to put stuff out that, you know, brightens the internet just by a little bit, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. I'm glad you're like able to feel that.
For real, man. And also, you have a video about Pokemon Go. Now, I never played Pokemon Go, but obviously you're a Pokemon fan.
Yes.
So you know your stuff. So I wanted to ask you, what are your
Is this
top
where you
3
challenge
Pokemon?
my knowledge? Oh, no.
No, I just want to know your top 3 Pokemon and why.
Ooh,
like,
okay.
What do you like about them?
So, my top 3 are going to be very, like, similar because my favorite type is electric type. I really like the color schemes. I really like the design aspects of them. So, like, my favorite one I would say would be Ampharos.
Nice.
It's just like a cool design. I really like its like hidden. Well, I wouldn't say hidden lore, but I really like the little like story beats that they give to it. I like Ampharos. I like Electivire.
Ooh, yeah.
And that one's just because it's like a nice classic that got like buffed, and I was like, ooh, yes, I'm more of that, please. I like Electivire, and if I had to pick a third one, this one's tough. My third one, a curveball, Meganium.
Oh, the big dinosaur plant
Yeah.
starter from Johto.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I just like how like it's just a big flower, and I'm like, that's so nice. And the way it was depicted in the anime was just like, yeah, she just cares about people, and I was like, that's really cool to have around. So, but yeah, I would say that's probably my top 3.
Good picks. You were like, at first I thought you were gonna be like, well, I like electric types, and because I like them when they have all the similar style. So, Pichu, Pikachu, Raichu. Next. I was waiting for that. Right. Oh no,
right.
This is gonna be a quick.
What did I do? I've opened a door to something I didn't want to know. So maybe I can counter ask. What are yours?
Well, thank you. That's very polite of you. All right. If we're just going like leaning into nostalgia for a bit and just design wise, Squirtle. Not it's his evolutionary line. I'd give him a fucking Everstone and make him eat that shit. Like, just stay Squirtle. I like you as a Squirtle.
Right, don't grow up. Just stay there.
Right. I'll put some Kamina glasses on you, and you're gonna be my boy. All right. I love Squirtle's design. I love the Squirtle Squad episode. I feel like I know that they have to cycle through Pokemon every series because it's like a new generation and stuff. But man, I really feel like Squirtle, Bulbasaur, and Charizard should be like staples. Like, they should be in Ash's party forever. Personally.
Right.
And then, all right, second, very underrated Pokemon, in my opinion, is Crobat.
Oh my god, no, I 100% agree with you.
Yeah.
Crobat is one of my tops. Not my top 3, unfortunately, for like the reasons I just stated.
But like, so you get it, like, because when people used to bitch and moan so much about Mount Moon, like, I can't walk 5 feet without running into Zubats, and I'm like, you don't know their value.
Yeah,
you don't get it, man. You raise that Zubat with love and care, and it becomes the best fucking Pokemon in the game.
Yeah.
But of course, during Kanto first gen, they wouldn't let you do that, which is kind of a bummer. Even in Fire
even then,
Red,
I was kind of like Golbat was kind of good too, just for its goofiness. But Crobat definitely, I am with you there. Sorry, but yeah, good, keep going.
Yeah, no, I'm like, I agree. Like, it's a shame that you couldn't evolve him in like Fire Red, because Crobat was already in the Dex by that point. But you couldn't get him because it was locked to only the Kanto Pokemon. And it was like, how come friendship doesn't work right now. Like,
yeah.
it's so silly, but
yeah. Where's the power of my love? I need you to grow.
He looks like a supersonic bat. Like, it's so cool. It's a cool look. Their stats are really great if you're like into the numbers and stuff. They're actually very reliable, and they've got a really nice moveset. Like, just love them. All right.
Yeah, and especially now. Sorry, like I'm just gonna geek out for like one last second.
No, go for it.
Especially now, like with the current generations, when with fairy introduced, it's like I have a poison type, and it's like probably pretty early poison type, because Zubats you can find pretty like commonly. So it's like as soon as I find my first Zubat, I'm like, yes, you are mine. You are staying with my party for a long time, especially because you can learn like really good flying moves. But not only that, now I have a poison type to counter any like late stage fairies. This is great.
Yeah, that's one of the things I really like about Gen 6 is that they added fairy and then they made poison reasonable again. They made dragons a little bit less OP. Just very very nice touch. Okay, so third Pokemon is Gallade. And that one's maybe a little more obvious. A lot of people love Gallade, but I played with, I don't know how I got a hold of him. I think I probably just swapped Pokemon from game to game, but I played Black and White 2 with a Gallade, and then I got like a Poniard and got a Bisharp, and I'm like, oh, I'm making Knights, I guess. I'm just gonna have a bunch of Knights.
Yeah.
It was very cool. So when I saw that new Sirfetch'd, I was like, oh, another Knight, sweet. Like, all I want to do is make like a party full of Knights, and then that'll be my perfect Pokemon party.
That'll be my 6. Yeah, I had kind of that same moment in the most recent one too, when I evolved Toxtricity, because he's just like this punk rocker, like just being, I guess. And so I was like, oh my god, wait. Toxtricity plays the bass or the guitar, depending on which form you get. Rillaboom is the drummer. And I've got Obstagoon as the main singer. It's like, I just need 2 more. Where's my X-Cloud? Where's my speaker? I'm there almost. So it's like, yeah, I definitely had that moment too. So I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, and I'm just looking it up right now because I haven't played Sword and Shield.
Oh, okay.
So I haven't even played the Alola games. Like, I have not seen a lot of the new games recently, but I'm hoping at one point soon that they'll like make what I think would be the perfect Pokemon game. If I can small tangent here.
Okay.
But before I do that, I wanted to ask what your favorite generation is and why.
Ooh, see, that one's tough because I would say, okay, the answer that pops up in my head the fastest is probably Gen 3. Ruby Sapphire.
Really?
Yeah, and I think more than anything, it's the feeling of like there's a world to explore, and only because I started with Gold and Silver. I didn't start with Blue and Red, because when Blue and Red came out, I not only was like not really in a position where I could have a Game Boy, but more than anything, I didn't really understand what this was or like what was going on with Pokemon in general, or just like games really. Well, no, that's not true, but Pokemon in general, like I wasn't aware of its existence that much at that time. And so when Gold and Silver came out, I was finally able to like, ooh, I have a Game Boy, and I've been really interested in this Pokemon thing, so I want Silver. And so I got Silver and I played it, and that was my first Pokemon game. And I was like, this is really cool, and I really like this, and I played it a lot. And so when Ruby and Sapphire came out, I was like, this is what I love, but it's new and it's more. And so I actually had that feeling of like a new frontier to go to.
Okay.
And yeah, and so I think that's why that one would be my favorite one, because that's when I first had that feeling of like brand new Pokemon, brand new region, everything is new, but I still love all of this.
That's fair. So where my tangent was going to go is actually taking elements from all of these different generations and combining them into one perfect game. So I know there's this contention online about like the national decks not being available in Sword and Shield. I won't get too much into that, but for me personally, a perfect Pokemon game obviously would have access to all available Pokemon and all the new ones, right? So that would be a thing.
Right.
All evolutions are available immediately, meaning like nothing's soft lock, like you don't unlock the next dex and then you're able to do a thing. Like you can just get everything you need if you have the means to. The bad guys are like compelling. So again,
right.
Not talking about Gen 7 and 8 because I haven't seen them yet.
Okay.
But one of my biggest gripes about Gen 6 was where the bad guys Team Flare were awful. Just the worst. Like that. Oh man, Gen 6. Like they improved the mechanics by adding Fairy type, and they had Wonder Trade and all these really cool mechanical things I really liked, which would also go into the perfect game. But you have this bad guy team that are not compelling in any way, and they're dorky and weird, and like they're not. There's no like. What do they do? What is their purpose?
I think
it's to follow this guy with this strange hairstyle, which I guess is a thing in Pokemon. Everybody's got a strange hairstyle. But he's like,
he's the strangest.
He's one, but here's what's weird. His one goal is different depending on what game you get. So if you get X, it's to live forever, but if you get Y, it's to destroy everything. And neither of them really make any sense. Like for this guy, like it really pissed me off. There's like another story moment that really pissed me off.
Oh, okay.
But as a counter example, like I mean, although honorable mention, Team Rocket. Everybody loves Team Rocket.
It was the
first. Think the reason we do is because they're just the mafia. What is their goal? To make money.
It's that
yeah.
simple.
Well, I mean, the mafia's real. Like people do want to make money. Like that's very relatable. You know, like I get that. And a lot of people wanted to join Team Rocket when they got to Nugget Bridge. Like it kind of makes sense. It's fun to be the bad guy. But Gen 5 had Team Plasma. I loved Team Plasma. I thought that's actually my favorite generation to answer that question.
Ooh,
because that story was super compelling. They show up in like the first town outside the hometown that you leave,
right?
And they're like doing this like public thing, kind of like. Have you ever seen Legend of Korra?
Yes, I have.
So remember when she first gets to Republic City and like the guy's talking about the Equalists or whatever?
Yeah,
it's like that. They're like, if you really cared about Pokemon, then why are you keeping them locked up in Pokeballs?
Yeah.
Like, that's humane? Like, you guys are the good guys. You love your Pokemon so much, you keep them locked away in a little tiny ball in your belt. And they're going to just be happy for you. And that's totally fine. And everyone's like, well, maybe that is wrong. And I'm like, dude, I like these bad guys because it kind of makes sense. You know, like, why would you keep your dog on your belt or whatever? Like, that's not right.
Right.
And then, of course, you've got, like, Ash, who's always got Pikachu out of a Pokeball, so...
Right, yeah. So you're kind of, like, in the mindset to be like, wait a minute, this kind of makes sense.
And their whole play is, like, it's all political. Like, the guy wants to take over. He doesn't want to destroy the world with eco-terrorism like in Gen 3. He doesn't want to rule the universe like in Gen 4. Or just look for their missing boss in Gen 2. Like, he wants to... He wants to take over, and he does. Like, he convinces enough people to give up their Pokemon that there's weak resistance, and the only people that can resist, the gym leaders and the champion, all get defeated. Because he's got these legendary Pokemon. And then it's, like, over. Like, you can't... you can't say... Like, only you are the only person that can stand up to him. That's, like, the whole crux of the story. But still, like, it worked. He, like, actually did it. And then if it wasn't for those meddling kids, like, he would have... Well, I don't know. I liked that story. I thought that was cool. So my perfect Pokemon game would have all of those things.
It was a pretty cool story. And then, like, you fight the first people and they send out a Pokeball. You're like, well, maybe this would have been a stronger message if you weren't hypocritical, but...
Right. That's a good point, too. I forgot about that.
Yeah. But yeah, I get what you're saying.
All right. I didn't want to go too much into Pokemon, but I never get to talk about it, and I love to talk about Pokemon. I don't even play it that much. I have very strong feelings.
No, yeah. If I get started on Pokemon, I could go for a long time.
So let's shift gears. Yes. This is my last question specific to like your channel, which is what is next for your channel? What are your goals for this year?
Okay. So what's next for my channel? I definitely want to start. I definitely want to keep making more D&D content. because that's fun, and I really like the people that I get to, like, I guess, share the experience with, and not just like playing D&D, but like making videos too, because I mean, like, um we started talking and I was like, oh, that's really cool, like I get to make a connection with somebody that also likes D&D and like isn't just in my like area. And then I made a connection with another YouTuber that I made a couple of like videos with so far. And so I think that's really cool that it's just like D&D's not only bringing me together with people in my area, but like people that just like it in general. So I definitely want to keep that going. And then I also want to just make like little random videos that I want to make, if that makes any sense. Apart from that too, because it's like I definitely like D&D, but I don't want to have like just a stretch of time where I just make that content, because that honestly would be really like, I don't know about this, if this is the right word, but that would be like easy for me, because I have a lot of stories that I want to tell, because like I've kind of been holding on to them, and I have a lot of things I want to discuss with people, like be it in the channel or like anywhere else, and that's cool. I'm just kind of holding those back because like it's that kind of thing where if someone talks about something for a little too long, it might get a little like annoying, and so I'm trying to like hold a little bit of that back, and then kind of sprinkle like random videos, and also because I feel like that what's the word produces a little bit more imagination too, because if I kind of limit myself to be like, you're not just gonna do this, then I can be like, okay, well, what else am I gonna do? And that makes me think and makes me come up with newer ideas. And so like that, and I'm sorry I keep referencing it, but that video I did with the songs, I took some royalty free songs from YouTube's audio library and I just wrote lyrics to it, and I was like, that was fun to make, and I don't think I would have made that if I just made more D&D stuff. And so I think that's what the direction of my channel is going to be, kind of like just some sprinkles of like interesting videos and then D&D stuff for now at least. Where it goes, I'm not sure, because it's kind of like still relatively new, and I want to see what I like, and I want to see what my viewers like.
Okay, that's actually a good point. I was listening when you said that it pushes you to be more creative, to not just stick to one thing. It forces you to think outside the box. I think that's actually a very good way to look at it. I mean, because the channel is about you.
Yeah,
it's named after you.
Yeah.
so it's not necessarily, it doesn't have to be all one topic. It's whatever interests you,
right,
and,
right.
Maybe your audience at the time. So that's actually a very good way to look at it.
Well, thank you.
No worries. All right. So now we've reached the end of my questionnaire. So now we could just chat, man.
Cool.
You tell me about your favorite character, the one that you're playing right now. It's a half orc.
Oh
you
yeah.
told me earlier.
His name is Boone, and I wasn't like sure how it was gonna go when I made him, and the more I've been playing as him, I'm like, I love this character, and I don't know what I'd do if I lost him. So I'm kind of in that mindset when as a player, which might be a little detrimental to the DM, but I'm trying to be like, look, I want to bring this character to fruition to see what happens to him, because he's a half orc who was previously a barbarian, and as his like time kind of came to a close with the troop he was like walking around with, he was approached by like a traveling monk woman, and this monk woman was like, hey man, you don't have to be bad. And so Boone was like, wait, that's an option? And so after that he was like, oh, if that's what I'm going for, then like what am I doing? And so like now he's a barbarian monk character, and I think that's such a cool thing, because I'm like, this character's like, he gets angry because he's raging, but at the same time he's like doing all of this super like enlightened monk stuff where it's like I can run on water, but I'm also very angry. And so I was like, that's such a cool like juxtaposition for a character, and so like I really like him.
Yeah, that's a hard multi-class to pull off.
Yeah. Luckily I was able to talk with my DM, and so we kind of like figured something out to be like, okay, well, you know, you'll use this stat for doing that kind of stuff. And so we were able to just kind of like tweak it to so it's enough play, like it's playable for me, and it's also like good for the DM. We were able to talk that out.
That's good. Yeah.
I think it's that I think that's always important. Like, talk with your DM, because we, unlike in the game, we can't read minds. So, you know, if the players are kind of struggling with something as a challenge, and they don't talk to their DM, then the DM's not really gonna know. So they might not like something that's in the game that the DM is like not even aware of, and he's just like, well, you know, that was there, and let's keep going. Then I feel like that might lead to a lot of those like previously stated RPG horror stories where it's like a lot of the times I'm listening to those and I kind of get frustrated because I'm like, this could have easily been solved if someone just talked to somebody.
Yeah, man. Nerds, what's up with us? We can't communicate or something.
I know, it's almost like we're so shy or something.
We're like bad at talking. Yeah. I mean, also, like, if you just talk to your DM like beforehand, session 0 style, like, hey, I actually did this with the monk. So you know the Way of the Four Elements subclass? Yeah, so I wanted to make like a water-based monk. I actually have this really cool character that I came up with. She's a water genasi, and I wanted her monk class abilities to reflect that she has power over water. So I was like, all right, I went to my DM, I was like, can we homebrew this a bit? Because the way that it's set up now is not very good. Like, it's a pretty bad build, and it also came out before Xanathar's Guide. So now there's all these elemental evil spells that are out that are not incorporated into that subclass, which doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, why, if I'm a Way of the Four Elements monk and I can do Water Whip and all this other stuff, how come I can't spend key points to cast Tidal Wave? Oh, because it wasn't out when the book came out, right?
Right.
So, like, we actually worked together. Like, I created a draft and sent it to him, and he said, maybe change these things, change those things, and then we had it. And that's like, now he has a copy and I have a copy, so he knows what I can do and what I'll be able to do at certain levels. So like, the DMs are already prepared. He knows what I'm doing, and it's not OP. It's just balancing it out. It's like it was already underpowered. Now it's evenly powered with everybody else.
Yeah, because it's like it has to be fun to play too.
Right. And like, you know, listeners, if you're thinking about, like, let's say you're in a group that only does by the book material, and you really don't feel like you're getting you're able to create the character that's in your head, the vision that you have, or whatever options aren't quite doing it for you, talk to your DM and try to work out a way to homebrew stuff. You don't have to go on like, do you know that website?
I think
like
it's
5e?
It's D&D Wiki, something like that.
Yeah, that stuff's always broken. You can go there for inspiration and then just make up your own stuff. Like, try to just swap out abilities for maybe something slightly more powerful, because if you can demonstrate, like the Ranger, for example, right? Like, if you can demonstrate the Ranger is not as good as other classes, then I think a DM would be okay with you swapping out certain abilities for different things.
Yeah, especially if it's like a conversation between the two of you.
Right. Instead of trying to trick the DM.
Yeah.
I know this loophole and I'm going to exploit it. And then like the DM's like, no, you can't do that. But the rules as written say, like, well, why didn't you just, you know, it's like trying to be sneaky. I get there's a bit of satisfaction there when you like get to pull the wool over people's eyes. But that should be done more. I feel like that should be a role-playing thing, not a mechanical thing. Mechanically, you should probably like keep an open line of communication with your DM.
Right, because it's kind of like if I could bring it back to like, imagine if that was something to do in like a video game. It's like if the video game is set with these rules and these like controls that you learn throughout the entire game, and then all of a sudden like you're faced with just an enemy, not even a boss or anything, just a random enemy that breaks all of these rules. it's like that would be frustrating. That would be like, wait, but everything I've learned like is just broken now, and that doesn't matter to me. Like I'm just supposed to deal with it. So I feel like that's like can be transferred back to the DMing side, where it's just like this isn't, you didn't like win. Like this is just something that you did that's gonna cause me problems as a DM, because now I got to deal with this in like an open area with like other people now, like because if I allow this, then there's precedence for this being allowed,
Yeah.
and so my other players might be like, well, you allowed that, and it's like, well, no, you can't do it, why did he do it? And then it just creates a whole bunch of problems.
Right.
So like
nip it in the bud early and like nerf it if you gotta. Like there are some spells that I've been in games where people have decided that they should nerf it, and like I might not agree, but if the DM says, hey, in my campaign from this point forward, this spell doesn't do it like this, it does it like this instead, that's, I mean, you can, it's your choice to stay in that campaign. Most people will, because they enjoy it enough that they'll deal with this mechanical loss or whatever.
Yeah. Plus I feel like that opens up a dialogue, because if the DM comes to you and says like, hey, I feel like this needs to be nerfed, and you agree, that's great. That's like problem resolved. But if you keep playing it, and you as a player, because this is a like a silly lesson to learn, but one that I feel like people need to learn, is like the one that's the player and the DM aren't playing the same. So the DM might not understand that you as a player with that nerf spell, actually it's not worth casting anymore because of how nerfed it is in many situations. So then I think that with the open dialogue that you had previously like talked about, you can go back to the DM and be like, so listen, I've been playing with this nerf spell for like 5 sessions now, and I gotta say, like, it just doesn't feel right. It feels like it's not worth casting. Maybe I should change the spell. If you don't want this spell to do that much damage, maybe I can just get another spell, or we can like tweak it again. So I feel like that's just something that everyone should be able to do.
Yeah, agreed. And also, I think chances are good that most DMs want to see cool stuff.
Yeah.
If you come to me and you're like, listen, I've got this idea for like playing a martial superiority, whatever fighter, and I want to, a martial master, that's right, and I want to like have a technique where I can cut through iron bars with a sword. Can I have a technique that does that? And I would think about it, and I actually did that with a character. Like I made a way to spend more than, so like most techniques spend 1 superiority die, and you can do like a special thing like a disarming attack or whatever. Well, I had special techniques. You could do them once a day, or not once a day, but like you would spend more than 1 superiority die.
I see.
So like you'd have to expend a lot, meaning if you spent too many like pairing moves and doing all this other stuff, you wouldn't be able to do the technique. You'd be too tired or whatever.
Right.
So there was one, it was called like Steel, kind of like Steel Wind Strike or whatever. It's a similar name before Xanathar's guy came out. And like you could you basically make an attack with advantage on an object, but it had to be an object, not a creature. And then you'd expend all those die on it, and chances are it would be enough. If it was like bars or something, you could cut through it. If it was like a cave wall, maybe that's a little too many hit points. You wouldn't be able to like get through. But that way, you know, you'd have enough damage that you could reasonably get through most thinner materials. Whereas like big thick things, like unless you rolled max damage, it got extraordinarily lucky, it wasn't going to happen.
Right, where it's like there's a chance.
Yeah, and like we both agreed that it's a good compromise, and it's like something cool can really happen, but it's not going to happen every single time where it breaks a game. It gives us the chance that it could be happen. It was definitely worth talking to the DM for. So like don't be afraid of trying out homebrew stuff with your DM. If your DM is absolutely against it and doesn't want to ever do that kind of stuff, and they're very strict rules as written, then you need to think about how worth it is it to you to not have those options and play in that campaign. And if it's not worth it, you might have to look for a new group.
Right. Or you can just be like, okay, I'll save these ideas for like a different session. Maybe this session, like maybe this session or this campaign rather, I will see what I can do by the book. If you feel like staying in that group is worth it, then I feel like, yeah, okay, I will play simply by the book, strictly standard. And then any ideas that I have, I'll save for like a campaign we have after this one, or a different campaign that I start with other friends, or something like that.
Right. Just shelve that character, because it sucks when you really want to play a character and you feel like you have this chance, and then you can't really. Oh, my phone went off.
Nice.
Yeah. So you can tell I like Pokemon, huh? Like, it sucks when you have this really cool character concept, you really want to play it, but if the DM isn't allowing your ideas for this character, because they're like, well, this is, in this campaign everyone's a human, or like in this campaign resurrection spells don't work that way, like whatever their homebrew rules are, which is completely up to them. Like, you then need to maybe think, all right, would it be worth it to play a gimped version of this character that I really love, or maybe just put it away for now, play something else, and then later on eventually you'll be able to play that other character.
Yeah,
and I've done that with
the character you actually ended up playing you really like. So
yeah,
it's something that's worth trying out, I guess. Yeah, and then I think one of the homebrew rules I made recently, one of my players is a dragonborn, and as a dragonborn he can breathe electricity like once a day because he's a blue dragonborn. And recently we got into this one section of game where he wanted to use it. He wanted to use his breath weapon, but it was in a situation where he wanted to use it just to kind of show off, sort of like a performance thing. And I told him, yes, you can absolutely do that. You just won't be able to use it later on in the day because it's once a day. And so and then that made him be like, okay, well then never mind. I won't do it right now. I'll save it for like a fight. And I won't. I will lose this role-playing opportunity in order to do a combat opportunity later. And I really, that felt really bad for me too, because I was like, I feel like I took this away from him, and I feel like he would have had a better time had there been a rule that states, like, you can just do that, or, like, anything like that. And so what I house ruled was, as the Dragonborn, you have control over your breath weapon. You can still use it once a day, but you can store it. So I told him if he finds glass bottles, large glass bottles, he can breathe into them and have his breath weapon be in that bottle and just store it for that day. If it didn't get used, then he just has it. So he's walking around clanking with
he's got lightning in a bottle.
He's got lightning in a bottle. Yeah. So yeah, he's got these little clanky bottles he walks around with, and he's like, I can use them whenever I want, and I don't feel like I'm wasting this one thing. So that's what I'm saying, where it's yeah, just, we're playing this game to have fun. Let's have fun.
Yeah, and also, let's be real, the breath weapon isn't that good. It's all right. It's not, you're not going to break the game by letting him have multiple instances of it in the day.
Yeah. Because it's it's powerful for maybe 1 or 2 levels, or level 1 or level 2. But since it doesn't scale with your level, it's just left at a flat D8 one time, and it's just kind of that's not. And I don't know if it actually a D8. I don't know if I got that right. I think
it might scale with your Constitution.
Okay.
I think the DC scales. Yeah.
Oh,
so, it doesn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I thought it was
doesn't really do much more damage, but it's harder to resist after you get stronger, I think.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I kind of, with a glance of it, I didn't see that the damage really scaled. Maybe it does, but maybe not that much.
But I mean, you can also say that when you put that lightning into a bottle after you level up, it doesn't get that benefit because it's from when you were weaker.
Right. Oh, right. Well, yeah, see, this is kind of what I'm saying. These are, ideas that we're bringing up that weren't thought of before, at least by book. So I think that's really cool because it just kind of it adds so much flavor to your campaign. And it's if you didn't talk with anybody, that wouldn't have happened. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you gotta just, you gotta just let go as a DM. I know it's really hard sometimes. You want to control everything. Get on my goddamn railroad. All right, this is the My Story Express. Choo-choo. But you really need to not do that so much sometimes. I mean, this. I'm more talking to listeners here who might feel like they need to box them in. Like I understand that like it's really devastating, especially when you write a big, like a bunch of lore, big story, and then they just decide that they're gonna hang on to this one NPC, and then they're gonna like do something completely different.
Right.
And if you're not great at improvising, that can be really tough.
Yeah.
And that's why they have all those tables and stuff that you can roll random encounters off of and stuff. But as long as you review what's on the table first, before you just start going, oh, a beholder attacks our level 3 party. You know, like, but
yeah.
I mean, it's also like it's practice. I've been in campaigns or not campaigns, but like short, like one shots of people who wanted to test out DMing, and they weren't very confident in their skills. And like we would play, and then like a person or like one of the players would do something that kind of subverted their expectations for where the story was going, or where like, and they got kind of like mad and like. And so, like, I get that. I completely understand where they're coming from there. But, like, you also, it's you're practicing even when you're doing it for real. Like, you're always practicing. Even the best DMs are always practicing. No one's, like, perfect at DMing. Maybe with the exception of Matt Mercer, but I'm not going to, I'm not going to say for sure because he hasn't ever DM'd me, so.
Yeah, I have no experience with it. It's like, if you what? Just take it out there. It's like, hey, we're free. Yeah, I don't know. Just for like, kind of how you're saying, for like anyone that's listening, to our like opinion, just some guys talking. If you want a DM, like if that's something that's interesting to you rather, it's from my experience. What I can say is that the best way to learn is to gain that experience, like to just go, and you're gonna have a couple times where like. You don't know what you're doing. You're gonna have a couple times where it's like that didn't feel like a great session, and it's just like I feel like you need those moments to kind of understand what a good session is, because you can watch all the videos that are like, oh, this is how you DM, and granted those are helpful because it's like I didn't know about this one stat, or I didn't know about like a what's the word, like a not a combat roll, but like when competition roll, something like that, like when two people are rolling against each other.
Oh yeah,
like I didn't know about that or something. So it's like it's helpful in that sense, but I don't think many of the videos are going to be able to tell you like in this very specific situation that you're in, when one of your player characters actually wants to do something completely different than what you thought it was going to happen. This is what you do, and it's like you can either just wing it and be like, okay, well. This is what they want to do, so I can't just say no, or really just depending on what the situation is, because, some situations actually do call for you to be like, no, you can't do that. And then you have to learn when that situation is, because if it's a no, you're not writing my story, then I feel like that's not the best way to do it. But if it's like a character or a player that is clearly trying to like ruin not your story but like the campaign for everybody else, then I think that's when you're just like, hang on, let's not do that now. Like,
yeah, there's a lot of nuance involved. It's never, I mean, it's seldom have I ever played with someone whose goal was that. I have played with a couple people like that in the past, but like most people that I play with aren't trying to make it harder for the DM on purpose. Maybe they're just like they're trying to figure out a solution, and maybe they haven't figured it out yet. So they've come up with something you just didn't consider, and that happens all the time as a DM. And then a lot of times, like like I said with nuance, like you are not just balancing mechanics and stuff. You're also like kind of mediating a table of people.
Yeah.
And it's especially hard to do that, like because almost all of my games, I would actually say the majority of my games are not in person. They're almost always on Discord. So it's hard you don't see people's faces. Like you don't know exactly what's going through their mind. All you are doing right at that moment is hearing their voice. And sometimes like it can be hard to like interpret what their intent is based on that alone. So as a DM, I think that my advice to give is like, just give your players the benefit of the doubt. Try not to think that they're like out to get you or undermine you. And if they are, then you need to have a talk with them.
Yeah.
But like, don't necessarily, go like and accuse them of that. Like, just try to roll with the punches and see if you can, salvage whatever situation you're in. Because I guarantee you, like, 9 times out of 10, that's going to be more useful for you. You're going to learn more, and it's going to be it's going to take an instance that could be sort of not fun and make it fun again.
Yeah, definitely. Because I've been lucky enough to where like most of my games are in person, and I kind of try for that to be the case, because I've had some games where it's online, and I have personally found that when I play online, it kind of takes some of the nuance away, kind of like what you're saying, where it's like you can't really see their faces, so you can't really read their emotions or kind of what they're feeling. And not only that, but like it feels like everyone is a little bit more like low energy because they're just kind of at home, sitting in front of a computer or anything like that. And personally, that's what I have found. So that's what I'm saying, where it's like, from experience, you can only get better from your experiences. So it's kind of like, some people might have amazing games online. That's not my experience. So I prefer to have like games that are face to face. I might have an amazing game online later and then be like, oh, I was wrong. And I think that's completely like open to, I feel like that is something that you need to be able to do. Be like, oh, I was wrong about that, and now I know, and henceforth going forward, I will now like make new or better decisions based on new knowledge from that.
Right. It's all growing. It's all learning.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, like, just have fun with it, I guess. If you want to boil it down.
Yeah, it's a game. Hey.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, it's a RPG, which stands for role playing game. You know, I mean, that's at the end of the day, that's like what you gotta remember. This isn't a business meeting. This is not like a school test. Like, you don't. There's no pass or fail. Like, listen. And by the way, I'm not a great DM. I'm not like trying to talk up how great I am. Like, I'm really not. I do not have the experience necessary to think that I am anywhere near that. But I know, like, every single time I've ever DM'd, I've thought about it afterwards. Like, what did I do right? What could I change and do better next time? And like, that's how you grow. That's what DMs need to do. You just have to constantly think, all right, what went well? What did they like? What did they resonate with and respond to? And like, what do I need to do for next time to kind of keep that good feeling going? And like, maybe, or throw them for a loop or whatever. Like, there's a lot of different ways you can approach it. But as long as you're thinking about it, that's really the most important thing. Like, trying to figure it out and be self-critical. Yeah. A lot of those RPG horror stories are DMs who just don't grow and change. They're just, they have this idea and they want to do this idea, and then, and you're part of their world. It's not a collaborative thing. Like, you're in their universe, Yeah, that's not really fun.
Where it's like, the game is supposed to be that collaborative. Like, people are sitting down at a table to play a game. Like, it's literally that. Because like, when we were younger and when we would go outside, it's like, hey guys, you want to just play like pretend or anything like that? And it's like, yeah, we'll play pretend. And I mean, that's kind of basically what we're doing. We're just sitting down at a table playing pretend
with rules. Yeah, with rules, die rolls that determine stuff. Yeah, like it's organized pretend. Exactly. And I love that though. The thing that I really like about role playing games, I think my favorite part is the die factor, because when if you don't feel in control, that's actually not a bad thing, because you're not in control. But if you feel like the DM is just doing everything, that doesn't feel so great either, because again, it's their world, not yours. But if the die are in control, if it's luck of the dice, that means nobody's pulling the strings except fate. And I love that, because that means that like big villains could have stupid moments, or little inconsequential characters could just completely become super important because of some die rolls. Like, you never know what's going to happen. And that's what's exciting to me. I think one of the reasons I really latched onto it early on was because I was playing in a very like lethal campaign. My first video was about that campaign where my character basically died the second session. So, you know, like, and that was my introduction, and I was hooked. I was like, you know what? I had a lot of fun. I want to play this again.
Right.
And then I was all about survival. Like, I got to make the right decisions, and all around me, people are dying left and right. And, you know, it was extremely enjoyable because at any moment you could make a wrong decision, and that could be it for you. And everyone just understood that. We all just kind of knew that that was a risk. And it wasn't that the DM was trying to kill us, but he put real threats there, and then he gave us warnings in the world that we could, you know, either heed or not heed for those threats, and we could handle it the way we wanted to handle it. He wasn't throwing stuff at us, and if he ever did, it was like there was always a way out. But it was kind of up to us to use our heads and figure it out, and, you know, sometimes up to the die to have mercy on our souls, and sometimes the die did not. And it felt fair, though. It felt okay because it's like, well, I guess it was their time, you know? That's it. Like, I made this barbarian, and the Minotaur crit him twice and cut off his head. I guess I can't play that guy anymore. Play somebody else.
Well, that's the end. Oh, well. Yeah. So I guess, like, I do I want to ask you this one question. How do you, as DM, how do you feel about DMing behind the screen? Like having the screen,
like having a screen separate like the roles.
Yeah.
I've realized I tried doing that for a while, and I would rather, because the thing is, when you get like a crit or like high damage, people look at you like you are pretending, and I don't like that when people look at me like I made that up because I'm trying to kill them. So I will always do attack rolls and damage rolls out so that they see it. So when they see the crit, I could put both my hands up like, hey, man,
oh, well.
It's the will of the die. I didn't fucking, you know. But if it's like a persuasion or an insight or something like that, I feel like those can be secret. Like, they don't need to see those rolls. So I guess it just depends. I usually have a DM screen to kind of give myself an area more than anything else. I don't even really...
I think that's kind of where I go to it too, where it's like the DM screen for me is more of like, I need an area to write notes. I need an area to read what I've written like beforehand. I need my monsters to like be here, and I think that's really what I do, and like, or why I do it rather, because I roll dice behind the screen, but that's more because there's like, I don't want to like intrude on the space of my players, because since I play most games like face to face, we end up sitting like at a table. So I'm like, I know what it's like to sit at that table because I've been a player and a DM. And I know that it's a little like, hey, I need to put my character sheet here. I need to put my dice here. Like, I'm kind of setting up my area. I have this limited amount of space. So like, I'm going to find where I can put things. And I don't want to be the one to be like, okay, but now I'm also going to put like a dice tray here for my rolls. Or like, even if it's like a communal dice tray, to be like, everyone roll this in here or something. I feel like it's getting in the way of like the battle map, or it's getting in the way of somebody. So I'm like, if I can have my own little area, I think that's what I'm gonna do. And I feel like that's more why I do it.
I understand that, but don't you just feel great about rolling like 8d6 right in front of everybody? Like, here you go, it's coming right at you.
Oh man, I mean,
and then have them count it up. Why don't you do some math and count that up for me and tell me how much it is? Thanks. You know, I don't know. There's a little bit of like, being a DM, you know, you can have fun with it. Like, you can throw some big dangers at your players without intending to kill them. Just throw them for a loop, make them think fast and loose. Like, oh shit, what do I do? You know, like that makes it exciting for them. Usually, you know, like you'll get some. Every player's different. Everyone's gonna act differently. But like, if you're if you're with friends, that's one of those moves that's like, oh, this guy over here. Why do we agree to let him be our DM? You know, like that's fun. It's like I don't know. It's a fun thing to do. It's not like
I can definitely see that. Because going back to something you said where it's like session 0, and I feel like that's a big important thing too, because like I in the campaign that I'm running now, I had a session 0, and I think that's the first time I've ever had a session 0, and I feel like that's kind of why I really like this campaign, because from my session 0, I made it very clear to my players. I was like, the things are gonna happen that you might not like based on roles, and I want to tell you that like it's not my like plan for like those things to happen, because like it's the dice roll, and I'm not in a position where it's me against you. Like I'm not wanting to kill you. So I just want to let you know like that in general. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Like I'm not gonna shame you for not knowing something. Like it's an open environment, and I feel like that was like really important. So that's why I think I'm also in the position where when I'm behind the screen, I tend to kind of like use language that's kind of separating myself from the creatures. So like a lot of the times it's like, okay, well that was your turn, now it's the creature's turn. I don't say like it's my turn, because I feel like that kind of adds a little inception of like, it's me, I'm attacking you.
Right.
When it's like, no, it's like the world is attacking you in this situation, not me, because I'm not trying to get on your bad side, or I'm not trying to like make your character fail in his endeavors. It's just that this is what's happening now, and it's an organic sort of situation where you've made enemies of these people, and this is what they're going to do. So I feel like that might be important too, like the words you use. And yeah, like I don't know, I know we're going back, but I just felt like I kind of needed to say that too.
No, I think that's really important. And I also think that we're kind of nearing the end of our little a little podcast here.
All right.
This has been
cool.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like an hour. It feels way less than that.
Right. Yeah. That's what I was like, ooh, boy, I could go on, but yeah, definitely.
Well, I guess I'm just going to have you on another time, I suppose.
For sure. I mean,
means.
anytime, just let me know.
All right. Well, thank you all for
completely up for it.
Coming out to this podcast from your computer chairs. And thank you, Vitamin Ditter, for agreeing to be my guest this month. And you all should check out his channel, Vitamin Ditter, on YouTube. He also has an Instagram at Vitamin Ditter. Mm-hmm. Check him out. He's got a lot of stuff coming out this year. Yeah. Very excited to see it. Help him out. Subscribe. Click that. And smash that bell button so you get notifications.
Oh, boy. Ding that bell. Hit that like. Do all of the things. Well, thank you for having me, Cool Boy Shade.
Yeah, no problem.
This has been really fun.